Hello, and welcome to Justice Speaks. I am David Wallace, the Chief Assistant Prosecuting Attorney in Michigan in the United States, and I'm President of the Justice Speakers Institute. We are continuing our approach of interviewing traffic safety leaders to get their perspective on current issues about traffic safety and what steps we can all take to save lives, make our communities safer, as well as this world a safer place. With that, I would like to introduce my guest, Briana McCulloch, who is the Executive Director for the Kailee Mills Foundation. Thank you so much for joining me on Justice Speaks.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be a part of this.
Oh, the honor is ours. I guarantee you on that. But first, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So Kailee is my niece, and that's how I came to be a part of the Kailee Mills Foundation. But I born and raised in Texas. Currently live in San Antonio. I was a finance major in college and started out doing accounting, and eventually realized I wanted to do something a little bit more meaningful. And I wanted my work to mean something. So I stayed in accounting, but I went and worked for a nonprofit organization called the National Domestic Violence Hotline.
Sure.
And took my skill set and my efforts there because I felt like I could make a bigger difference in the world doing that. And it was there that I realized I just had a heart for serving others and for making a difference in the world. And I didn't want a job for it to just be a job. I wanted it to mean more. And so got some experience in the nonprofit world, and then had my son and stayed home for a little bit. And then I ended up starting a social media marketing company and built that up. And when the Kailee Mills Foundation was founded, it was very clear that my life had transpired in a way that gave me all the skills that I needed to run the Kailee Mills Foundation. And I've said since that day that I felt like God just really paved the path for me to do that. And I wish that it wasn't so.
Right.
I would, rather not be running the Kailee Mills Foundation, but I know that was meant for me. And that's why I am so passionate about the foundation. I'm passionate about my job. I don't consider it a job, really. I consider it me bringing something meaningful to the world. And it's so much more to me. I mean, it's my entire life. So I know that was long-winded, but
No,
that's
well,
just a little bit about me.
that was all very important, though. It's not long-winded at all. It's amazing how much you've already accomplished. I mean, and I'm not asking, but I can see you obviously in the Zoom, and you look fairly young. But of course, I'm old, so that maybe that's just part of it too. But clearly, you've accomplished a lot so far in your young life. You mentioned several times there the Kailee Mills Foundation. What is that?
Yeah. So Kailee, she was on October 28th, 2017. Kailee was riding in the car with three other friends, and they were going to a little Halloween party. So they were in their costumes. She was riding in the back seat. They were going a mile away, just one neighborhood to the next on a little side road, 30-mile-an-hour road. And the driver, they were all wearing their seatbelts. And Kailee actually took her seatbelt off for a moment to slide over and take a Snapchat selfie with her friend in their Halloween costumes. In that exact moment that she took her seatbelt off, the driver was taking a curve too fast, and the car ran off the road, hit a culvert, flipped front to back. Kailee was ejected out of the vehicle and was killed on impact. Ultimately, they said it was a traumatic brain injury from the ejection.
Sure.
And her three friends walked away. They all had their seatbelts on. They walked away with some scratches and bruises from getting themselves out of the vehicle, but really unharmed. And so we knew that Kailee would have been fine had she had her seatbelt on. And that one decision of being, making herself vulnerable and deciding to take her seatbelt off for a moment, which many, many of us have done,
Yep.
changed everyone's life in an instant. I mean, it changed our lives. It changed her friends' lives. It's a moment that we wish we could, go back and just tell her that it's not worth it. And so that's why the Kailee Mills Foundation formed. So 2 days after she passed away, David, Kaylee's father, was driving by her cross, which is right outside of her neighborhood. They pass it every day that they pull out of the neighborhood. It's 500 yards from her house.
Wow.
And there was about 200 kids that were surrounding her cross, just praying and hanging out there. And he thought, man, this is a really good opportunity to talk to these kids. And so he pulled over and he started talking to them about seatbelt safety and how important it is to never let your guard down. And it was so well received by them that he thought, we should start talking about this more. And so he actually went home and he started looking up seatbelt statistics. And he thought, in an instant, is this a freak accident or how often does this happen? That she just took it off for a moment.
Right.
And he realized it's not, it happens a lot and a lot more than people realize. And no one's talking about it enough. And so he said, we need to start something. We need to create awareness. We need to talk to kids. So we developed the seatbelt ribbon as an awareness ribbon that could be recognizable and would remind people to buckle up. And we started just sharing it in the community. And everyone took to it so well. It exploded. And the Texas Department of Transportation Click It or Ticket campaign learned about what we were doing. And they said, you know what, we really want you guys to come be the spokesperson for the campaign.
Okay.
So we traveled the state with the Click It or Ticket campaign for 2.5 weeks. And her story went viral around the world in over 43 countries. We reached over 400 million people with that campaign. It was their most successful campaign they'd had in 17 years,
Wow.
all 17 years of the campaign. And so it's the momentum from there, it just continued to grow. And we developed, programs, various ways that we do this to spread awareness about seatbelt safety and also help families that are impacted by crashes. And it's been a whirlwind, but that's what the Kailee Mills Foundation is and where it derived. And yeah.
So, and you're the executive director.
Mhm.
Well, what does that, I mean, I'm sure you just described a lot of things going on. It's
Yeah.
keeping you busy. What are some of your duties there?
Yeah. So we didn't have any employees for the first several years. We did, everything volunteer. We had our normal lives, and then we did everything that we could in addition to that to help grow the foundation. And about the 3-year mark, 2.5 years, we started to kind of lose a little bit of momentum, and we were so busy, and it was just we were all so strapped. And so we decided, we really need somebody to run this full time, one person who can just continue to grow it so that we can reach more people, because we already were seeing the impact we were making. Lives were being saved, kids were being changed, and it was just such an incredible experience. And so I became the executive director at that time, and it was March 2020, 2 weeks before pandemic hit. And
Oh,
so that was a little bit of a shock, but we did, we grew about 4 times over in 2020. Once we had someone who was dedicated to it, and the pandemic made no difference
I bet.
in what we were doing. And so it was really incredible. So I mean, as the director, nonprofits, you wear many, many hats. So it's, I oversee the programs, I do the development and the fundraising, and just the creative behind what message can we create around seatbelt safety that will continue to resonate with people, that will save lives. And now I have a small team that works underneath me. So I lead my team, and really the ultimate goal of my job is, how do we get better every day? How do we create better messaging? How do we reach more people and save more lives? And that's my number one priority.
Well, and you mentioned messaging.
Mhm.
There is obviously part of your work there and the importance of that. Um, and clearly, well, as you said, you had 17 years, you did better than they did before, was sentenced for 17 years. And now that you still had to keep working on the messaging, and your messaging though to, from what I understand, primarily high school kids.
Mhm.
Um, so their messaging to them is going to be completely different than messaging to someone like me.
Correct.
And so that's got to be also a challenge of finding what resonates with them.
Mhm. Very much so. And that's why our seatbelt awareness program is structured and different. We have different streams that we do things. And our programs are seatbelt awareness is our largest program. And we break that up into school programs where we're targeting our young teens, well, elementary through high school, really.
Yeah.
And then we have our community events and community partners. So that's how do we reach people within our local communities and really kind of immerse the message in all age groups, because your entire family is they're holding each other accountable. Your little one, like my son would even tell someone, make sure to put your seatbelt on and keep two hands on 10 and 2. And he's 7, but he's so immersed in it and being in our family that
Yeah.
the little ones really hold you accountable. And then as parents, right, we need to be an example to our young ones.
Yeah.
So we want the message to be full circle within a family, and we want to create talks and communication among everyone. So that's why we have the community piece. And then we have our awareness campaigns, which is constant development of seatbelt safety messaging that we can launch digitally and reach people the way that they're used to. So social media, billboards, radio, TV, through strategic partnerships with first responders and other nonprofit organizations. And so it's all of those things together creates this just massive circle of information, and it can grow from there. And so so that's our biggest program is seatbelt awareness for all ages. And then we also have family assistance. So we want to prevent as much loss and injury as possible. That's the goal.
Right.
But when it happens, we also want to be there for families because we know what it feels like. And you feel very alone. And so we help families who have been impacted by a vehicle crash. It doesn't have to be seatbelt related, whether it's a fatality or not. We're going to help cover funeral costs, medical costs, grief counseling.
Yeah.
In the midst of it all, they might need meals. They might need a new vehicle. They might have loss of income if they're spending a lot of time at the hospital. We do care packages, but we really individualize it by family. But we want them to feel like they're supported and they have somebody who understands what they're going through, walk with them through that journey. And then we also do college scholarships.
Okay.
But it also has a seatbelt awareness piece to it. So the students actually have to run a seatbelt awareness campaign as a part of their application. And so they're spreading awareness and they're learning a lot along the way. But this year we're doing a full ride scholarship
Wow.
valued at over $60,000, and then
Wow.
various other size scholarships. So that has grown tremendously. And it's been wild.
As you say, it sounds very rewarding.
It is.
Uh,
Yes.
you mentioned earlier about shortly after Kailee crash and what happened, that her dad started looking into some of the background there, the statistics, and finding out that this was not just a chance occurrence.
Mhm.
What's some of the information that, as executive director, that you've learned over time about seatbelts and the importance of wearing them?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 750,000 people die globally every year and not wearing their seatbelts. It's a tremendous amount. And just in the United States, I mean, over 46,000 people die every year in vehicle crashes, and about half of them were not buckled up.
Yeah.
So I know that people say, "Oh, everybody wears their seatbelts." We didn't realize this was a problem. That's actually a comment we get all the time. And yes, they say about 88% of people wear their seatbelts. I would say about 88% of people wear their seatbelts most of the time, but not all the time. And it might not be the perfect time or the right time.
Yeah.
So you never know when you're going to be in a crash. Just like Kailee, right? She didn't know that that was the moment that the crash was going to happen. And so a lot of us make excuses about, I'm just going around the corner. I'm only going 30 miles an hour. Oh, I'm right by the house, or I'm just going to grab something in the back seat really quick. You just never know what's going to happen in the moment that you decide to do that. And all of those things were present in Kaylee's crash. She was when a lot of people make the excuse of, oh, I'm in the back seat, I'm safer. Kailee was in the back seat. They were on a 30-mile-an-hour road. They were right by the house. all of the things were happening in her situation. And that happens a lot. And it's when you, even when you look at just teens, 90% of teen fatalities in a crash were not wearing their seatbelt.
Wow.
90%. It's a huge problem. It's the leading cause of death for people ages 1 to 54. It's the leading cause of death for teens. I mean, it's just, these are our children. I mean, how do you not want to have that conversation more and prioritize that? Because losing a child is it's the most devastating thing a person can go through.
And it's so
So,
easy to do, to buckle
mhm,
up, put the seatbelt on.
mhm,
Um, in your research and that too, one of the things that seems, at least that I seem to recall, and I could be off on this, but I'll let you correct me. Um, that we, like they say, the 88% or whatever percent it is,
mhm.
many times that's the front seat, not the back seat.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people think that they're safer in the back seat, and I mean, I'm sure that Kaylee thought the same thing. Oh, this is just for a moment, and I'm in the back seat. But that's just not the case. I mean, you can be ejected just the same. She was ejected out of the window just like she would be in the front, and many, many more people don't wear their seatbelt in the back seat. But there's also the piece of, if you're in the vehicle with other people and you're not buckled and they are, and you get into a rollover, you become a weapon to the people that you're in the vehicle with.
Yep.
And there's there's some videos that really show this well, of if you're in a rollover and let's say the driver is buckled and the person in the back seat is flying around the vehicle and their heads are colliding. And do you want to be responsible for the death of your friend or your family member because you didn't wear your seatbelt? That's another thing that people actually don't think about. And so I don't want anybody riding in the car with me when they're not buckled because I know that they're a weapon to me. So and a lot of people don't wear their seatbelts in the back seat of rideshare, an Uber or Lyft or
Right.
a taxi.
Very
And
true.
have you ever thought about the fact that you're actually just putting your lives in the hand of a stranger? You trust the stranger who's driving you and you know nothing about them or how they drive, or I mean, it's just, you wouldn't ride a roller coaster without putting the bar down and putting on a buckle, because you feel very vulnerable. Well, if your car starts to roll over, you're basically in a roller coaster without the bar protecting you.
So you mentioned a number of things of what the foundation is doing, the seatbelt awareness programs, family assistance, the community outreach. In terms of the school programs, what's some of the things that you are being done there, do you think? Not think, what are some of
Mhm.
the things that you know are being done, and what are you seeing happen?
Yeah, our school programs are it every school is different and the impact is different, but it's always incredible. There's always a handful of kids that are crying, are coming up and saying, I didn't wear my seatbelt before, but I'm going to now. And we take survey results. We have them fill out information before, where they're telling us, do you wear your seatbelt? Do you wear it in the back seat? Do you ever take it off when the car's moving? Do you wear it if you're just going around the corner? And then afterwards, we ask them the same things again. And we see, did we change their mind? Are we going to change their behavior? And the results are incredible. I mean, we usually get an increase of 14 to 20%
Wow.
of people that, we've changed their minds. And then there was this one event where a kid said, oh, I don't need to learn about that. I don't wear my seatbelt. And after talking to him just for a few minutes, okay. And he walked away. About 30 minutes later, he came back up and he said, you know what? I'm sorry. And I am going to wear my seatbelt from now on. And it was, we didn't know what was going on in his head when he walked away, but the conversation got started and it obviously resonated with him and it got him thinking about it. And what we do is we don't really, we don't really believe that much in the click it or ticket message, because the fear of the ticket is not what it's about. Most people aren't really afraid of a seatbelt ticket. It's not that much. And, that's not the consequence. The consequence is your life. But the thing about it is you're not going to be here to experience that. So what do you think you're putting your family through? And so the message that we try to tell people is, who do you buckle up for? Because it's not about you. It's about who you're leaving behind and the grief that they're going to experience for all eternity that you're not here. And so we really come at it from a lot more of a heartfelt meaning. And we do, as a part of our school program, another piece that we do is seatbelt checks. And so we'll stand at a parking lot exit and we'll watch. And when we see people who aren't buckled up, we'll actually stop the vehicle. We'll give them some information. We'll remind them why they should buckle up and what happened to Kailee. And we take data on these. So we take it before and after, and then we see, once we've done all of our program, did we make a change? And we did a seatbelt check at a school this past semester. And we didn't do anything else. We didn't go do the presentation or anything like that because they didn't have time. We only did the seatbelt check. And we increased seatbelt use by 17%.
Wow.
With one seatbelt check.
Wow.
So it's just, I think it's, there's the photo of Kailee and there's the story of Kailee who reminds them of themselves. And so it really makes them realize they're not invincible.
So clearly, what you're seeing and hearing from other people is you're making a difference. You're having an impact. You talk about 17% increase there at one point, and the presentations and 18% increase. Obviously, the easy question is, how does that feel?
Oh, this is the most difficult and rewarding at the same time. This is the difficult and most rewarding thing. And at the same time, it's difficult that I have to relive and tell the story of the death of my niece over and over and over and over again. And that alone is really difficult. But to see the impact, to see kids that are in tears, kids that say, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. 100% I'm going to wear my seatbelt. People that will come to us and say, this happens a lot, actually. I didn't wear my seatbelt before, learned about Kailee's story, or was at an event or whatever. And I was actually in a crash, a year later or recently, and my life was saved by a seatbelt. And I know that was because of you. And we get those messages all the time. And it makes me emotional because losing Kailee is the hardest thing that I've ever gone through in my life. But to know that her legacy is saving lives and continuing generations what her life meant something. It still means something, and it always will. And so I never want the foundation to end. I want it to just continue to grow year over year over year, because I know that her name and her face and her legacy is making such a big difference in the world. And that's the most rewarding thing I've ever experienced in my life.
Oh, I believe that I don't doubt it for a second. I know that you mentioned earlier that you reach out to first responders and try to work with them, and you mentioned paramedics, but I'm assuming as well, which can be dangerous, but that's why I asked the question, that includes law enforcement as well. Is that true?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And how do you work with law enforcement and other first responders?
Yeah. So if you, really think about it, first responders are, whether it's law enforcement, fire, or EMS, and even in the hospitals and trauma centers, they are the ones who are seeing this firsthand. When a crash happens, when a fatality happens, the people on the scene first are law enforcement, firefighters, EMS, chaplains. If they go to the hospital, then it's your trauma centers.
Yep.
So they see what happens when you don't wear your seatbelt. They see ejections every day. They don't want it to happen just as much as we don't. And so, there's this perception of law enforcement, they just want to give you a ticket because they just want to make money for the city. And that's not true. They don't want to come up to an accident and see a dead person.
Right.
They want you to live. It's very traumatic for them to experience these losses over and over. They have to go and they have to give death notifications to families. That is the worst thing that a law enforcement officer has to do, is give a death notification. They have to be a part of someone's worst moment of their entire life, and they have to do it every day. And I have so much respect for law enforcement, firefighters, EMS, They try to, they're saving people's lives every day. They're trying to keep people safe. And so that's why we partner with first responders, because we couldn't do what we do without them. And they're the ones who are trying to help enforce and protect people so that this doesn't happen.
Sure.
And so, with first responders or with law enforcement, some of the things that we piloted is they do a lot more community policing and things now. And they don't really want to give seatbelt tickets. They would rather they want you to buckle up. So instead of giving a ticket, what they've been doing is giving our information and our seatbelt ribbon. And they're saying, hey, we really want you to look this up. We want you to asking them to buckle up, and we want you to go home and we want you to look this up and understand why it's important to buckle up. We want you to be safe. And they've just got tremendous responses from that. So just to see that Kaylee's story can make a difference in that way too. It's
Yeah.
just a new creative way that we can get people to understand that it's not about the ticket, it's about your life, it's about your family's life.
You mentioned a couple of times there, but yeah, obviously the foundation has a symbol to represent the foundation. Want to just be clear, what is that symbol?
Yeah. So within days of Kaylee's death, David, her father, wanted to look up awareness ribbons. He was like, there's an awareness ribbon for everything. There's bound to be one for seatbelts. And there wasn't. And so we created it. We drew it up, and we first, it was pink. And we wanted to give it to every single person at her funeral to say, we really want you to be safe. Please buckle up. And pink signifies the loss of a daughter. And so that's why we chose that. But we didn't want to keep that because of the pink awareness ribbon for breast cancer. We wanted it to be different. And so, and it looks like a seatbelt. So it comes around and then it looks like it clicks.
Okay.
And we picked mint green because there wasn't another mint green awareness ribbon. And that was Kaylee's favorite color. And so the seatbelt ribbon has become an extremely recognizable symbol. When you see it on a car, you immediately think of a seatbelt because it looks like a seatbelt. People put them in their cars to remind themselves and their passengers. And they're now, we've sent them all over the nation. They're free on our website, so people can always request them. And we send them to all states in the country. And a really, really cool thing the other day is someone way over in West Texas had our decal sticker on her tumbler, and somebody walked into her office and they said, oh, that's the Kailee Mills Foundation.
Oh man.
How do you know them? And these they didn't know that each other knew about it. This isn't in our direct local area or anything. And that's it. That's the point, is that when people see it, they know what it means, they know what it represents. And our goal is for that ribbon to be the nationally recognized symbol for seatbelt safety.
Okay.
So that, it's kind of like the breast cancer. When you see a pink ribbon, what do you think of? You immediately think of breast cancer. When you see this ribbon, what do you think of? Am I wearing my seatbelt? Is everyone in my car wearing their seatbelt?
Yep.
So we know the more that spreads, the more recognizable it will be and the more lives it will save.
Wow. So if someone's listening, and by the way, I'll also just let you know, then I'll get to my next question, but just let you know, and let the listeners know. We'll have what the ribbon looks like, or as far as that on the website, that Justice Speakers Institute, along with the show notes, and we'll have links to the Kailee Mills Foundation so that you can find that there, links to their awareness campaigns, to just another way to look for it. But while I'm saying that, why don't you go ahead and what is the website address for you?
Yeah, it's www.kaileemillsfoundation.org. And it's spelled a little different. Kailee is Kailee, millsfoundation.org. People can follow us on social media. We have, all the channels. And that, when you engage with us on those channels, it helps us be able to spread additional awareness and reach more people. If you're local to the area, in the Houston area, volunteers are always needed. And obviously the way that we're a nonprofit organization, so our programs are funded by donations. So if you feel called to give a donation, every dollar makes a difference. And the way that we reach more people is through donations. So the more that people donate, the more people that we reach and the more lives we save. So
can you make a donation on your website?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so we have the information there, how to learn more about the foundation. If we want them just to start making a difference in their lives and in the lives of their friends or their family, what do you recommend they do?
Yeah, so we got a message the other day, and that's a great question. That she said, my son really struggles to wear his seatbelt. Is there anything that I can tell him or show him? And I sent her a full list of videos that we have on our YouTube channel that are kind of really targeted towards a teenager. And we have our YouTube channel has so many videos. So if you go on there and you just watch the different ones, you're going to be able to know which ones you feel like would reach your child based on their age. We have some for little kids, teenagers, we have them for adults.
Wow.
But there's, just so many videos. So I would say that's a really good resource for getting someone to really understand why it's important to wear a seatbelt. A lot of people will change their minds after watching our videos. So we put a lot of effort and resources into that. And then there's a lot of information on our website where they can learn statistics, they can see our programs. And of course, if they're a high schooler and they're about to go to college and they want to apply for a scholarship, going through that process is going to help them. So if it's a struggle with your teenager and you want them to get a scholarship and learn about seatbelt safety, I would say send them right over there, and you can find that on the website as well.
Well, clearly, I know the ultimate goal is to work yourself out of a job. Unfortunately, at this point, as you said, we still have a ways to go. But I want to thank you for what you're doing and the work you're out there trying to make a difference every day in everyone's lives. And as you're hearing and seeing, you're saving lives. You are making a difference. And obviously the reason is you said you didn't want to be there, but the fact that you're making a difference and keeping Kailee Mills remembered and that she's making a difference every day as well is just phenomenal. I want to thank you so much for your taking the time with me today and talk a little bit about the foundation and the work you're doing. As I said to those listening, we will have links in the show notes to get to the foundation, to get to all this information, to the YouTube channel, so you can find it that way, or go to, and what's the website address again, Briana?
It's KaileeMillsFoundation.org, and that's KaileeMills Foundation.org.
Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Justice Speaks podcast is brought to you by the Justice Speakers Institute, LLC, the premier international speakers bureau on justice issues. This podcast is to give you the knowledge and be able to ask the questions on creating justice in your community.